Step 3. The second of the three spirits. Awakening in the middle of a prodigiously tough snore, and sitting up in bed to get his thoughts together, Scrooge had no occasion to be told that the bell was again upon the stroke of 1. He felt that he was restored to consciousness in the nick of time for the especial purpose of holding a conference with the second messenger, dispatched to him through Jacob Marley's intervention, but finding that he turned uncomfortably cold when he began to wonder which of his cousins this new spectral world drove back. He put them every one aside with his own hands, and lying down again, established a sharp lookout around the bed, who he wished to challenge the spirit of the moment of its appearance, and did not wish to be taken by surprise and made nervous. Gentlemen of the free and easy sort, who believed themselves of being acquainted with a move or two, and being usually equal to the time of day, expressed a wide range of their capacity for adventure by observing that the good for anything from pitch and toss to manslaughter, between which outside extremes, no doubt, there lies a tolerably wide and comprehensive range of subjects. Without venturing for Scrooge quite as heady as this, I don't mind calling you to believe that he was ready for a good boiled field of strange appearances, and that nothing between a baby and rhinoceros would have astonished him very much. Now, being prepared for almost anything, he was not by any means prepared for nothing, and consequently when the bell struck 1, and no shape appeared, he was taken with a violent fit of trembling. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, a quarter of an hour went by, yet nothing came. All this time he lay upon his bed, the very core and center of a blaze, a ruddy light, which streamed upon it when the clock proclaimed the hour, and which, being only light, was more alarming than a dozen ghosts, as he was powerless to make out what meant or what be out, and was sometimes apprehensive that he might be out the very moment an interesting case of spontaneous combustion, without having a consolation of knowing it. At last, however, he began to think, as you or I would have thought at first, who it is always the person not in the predicament who knows how to have been done it, and would unquestionably have done it too. At least I say, he began to think that the source and the secret of this ghastly light might be in the adjoining room, from where, on the future tracing it seemed to shine. This idea taking full possession of his mind, he got up softly and shuffled in his slippers to the door. The moment Scrooge's hand was on the lock, a strange voice called him by his name and bade him enter. He obeyed. It was in his own room. There was no doubt about that, but it had undergone a surprising transformation. The walls and ceiling were so hung with living green that it looked a perfect grove, from every part of which bright gleaming berries glistened. The crisp leaves of holly, mistletoe, and ivy reflected back the light, as if so many little mirrors had been scattered there, and such a mighty blaze went roaring up the chimney, and that dull petrification of a heath had never known in Scrooge's time or Molly's, or for many and many a winter season gone. Heaped up on the floor to form a kind of throne were turkeys, geese, game, poultry, brown, great joints of meat, sucking pigs, long wreaths of sausages, mince pies, plum puddings, rolls and oysters, red-hot chestnuts, cherry-cheeked apples, juicy oranges, luscious pears, amongst all the cakes and seething bowls of punch that made the chamber dim with their delicious stream. And easy stayed upon this coach. There sat a jolly giant, glorious to see, who bore a glowing torch, and sharp not unlike lanterns to home, and held it held high up to shed its light on Scrooge as he came peeping round the door. "Come in," exclaimed the ghost. "Come in, and tell me better, man." Scrooge entered timidly and hung his head before his spirit. He was not the dark Scrooge he had been, and though the spirit's eyes were clear and kind, he did not like to see it. I am ghost of Christmas present, said the spirit. Look upon me. Scrooge reverently did so. It was clothed in one simple green robe, or mantle, bordered with white fur. The garment hung so loosely on the figure that its capacious breast was bare, as it, disdaining to be what it all concealed by any article, its feet, observable beneath the ample folds of the garment, were also bare, and on its head it wore no other covering than a heavy wreath, set here and there with shining icicles. Its dark brown curls were long and free as its genial face, a sparkling eye, its open hand, its cheery voice, its unconstrained demeanor, and its joyful air. Gilded round its middle was an antique scabbard, but no sword was in it, and the ancient sword was eaten up with rust. You have never seen the like of me before, exclaimed the ghost. Never? Scrooge made answer to it. Have never walked forth with the young members of my family, meaning, for I am very young. My elder brothers born in these latter years, pursued the phantom. I don't think I have, said Scrooge. I am afraid I have not. Have you had many brothers, Spirit? More than the 1800, said the ghost. A tremendous family to provide for, muttered Scrooge. The ghost of Christmas present rose. Spirit, said Scrooge submissively, conduct me where you will. I went forth last night on compulsion, and I learned a lesson which is working now. Tonight, if you have aught to teach me, let me profit by it. Touch my robe. Scrooge did as he was told, and held it fast. Honey, mistletoe, red berries, ivy turkeys, geese, game, poultry, brown meat, pigs, sausages, oyster pies and puddings, fruit and punch, all vanished instantly. So gave the room, the fire, the ruddy glow, the hour of night, the stood and city streets on Christmas morning, where, for the weather was severe, the people made a rough but brisk and not unpleasant kind of music. in scrubbing the snow from the pavement in front of their dwellings and from the tops of their houses, whence it was mad delight to the boys to see it come plumping down into the road below, and splitting into artificial little snowstones. The hills fronts looked black enough, and the windows blacker, contrasting with the smooth white sheet of snow up on the roofs, and with the dirty snow upon the ground, which last as it had been plowed up in deep furrows by the heavy wheels of cars and wagons. Plows now crossed and recrossed each other hundreds of times, where the great streets branched off, and made intricate channels, held trees, and the thick yellow mud and icy water. The sky was gloomy, and the shortest street was chalked up with the dengue mist, half thawed, half frozen, whose heavier particles descended in a shower of sweetest atoms, as if all the chimneys in Great Britain had, by one consent, caught fire, and were blazing away to the dear heart's content. There was nothing very cheerful in the climate or the town, and yet was there an air of cheerfulness abroad that the clearest summer air and the brightest summer sun might have endeavored to diffuse in vain. For the people who were shoveling away on the house steps were jovial and full of glee, calling out to one another from the parapets, and now and then exchanging a picturesque novel, better than Joe, beside her than many a word jest, laughing heartily if it went right, and not less heartily if it went wrong. The poulterers' shops were still half open, and the fresh roads were radiant in their glory. They were great, round, pot-boiled baskets of chestnuts, shaped like the waistcoats of jolly old gentlemen, nodding at doors and tumbling out into the streets in their apoplectic opulence. They were ruddy, round-faced, broad-girthed Spanish onions, shining in the fatness of their growth, like Spanish fires, and winking from their shelves, and wanton slyness at the girls as they went by, and glanced demurely at the hung-up mistletoe. There were pears and apples clustered high in blooming pyramids. There were benches of grapes made, and shopkeepers' benevolence to dangling from conspiracy hooks. The people's mouths might water grasses at their past. There were piles of Philibers, mossy and brown, recalling in their fragrance ancient walks along the woods, and pleasant shelvings ankle deep through withered leaves. There were no fog buffins, scarred and swarthy, setting off the yellow of the oranges and lemons, and in the great compactness of their juicy pauses, and gently entreating and beseeching to be carried home in paper bags and eaten after dinner. The very gold and silver fish set forth among these choice fruits in the bowl, though members of a dull and stagnant-blooded race appeared to know that there was something going on, and to a fish went gasping round and round their little world in snow and passionless excitement.